It happened in the blink of an eye. One moment, I was driving home from work, the familiar hum of the engine a comforting background to my thoughts. The next, everything was chaos. The car swerved, a violent jolt threw me forward, and then the world went dark. I was in an instant where time itself seemed to stretch and bend. There was no pain, no fear, just an overwhelming stillness, as though everything had stopped. I couldn't see, hear, or feel anything, yet I was conscious, aware of an unfamiliar sense of separation from my body. I knew something had shifted, that I was no longer where I had been. And then I saw it. A soft glow began to emerge from the darkness, faint at first, like the first light of dawn. Slowly, it expanded, revealing a figure bathed in light, neither too bright nor too dim, but just enough to feel like it was wrapping me in warmth. The presence was unmistakable, as though every molecule of my being was drawn to it, though I couldn't explain why. I knew I was in the presence of something divine. The figure was not someone I recognized, yet there was something deeply familiar about it, as though I had known it all my life but had forgotten. There was no face, only a presence, a calmness, a peace, a sense of unconditional love that made all the chaos of the world to feel far away, insignificant. "Do not be afraid," a voice spoke. It was not heard with ears, but felt within me, resonating deep in my soul. There was no rush, no urgency, just an invitation to listen. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. But in that silence I understood what was being asked of me. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a moment of reckoning. I had been brought here for a reason. "You've lived your life," the figure continued, "but now you must understand the path ahead. What you've known will soon be overshadowed by a force greater than you can imagine." The words felt weighty, as though the very essence of truth was being laid bare before me. I wanted to ask questions, so many questions, but there was no need. The presence within me, the connection to this divine figure, seemed to provide all the answers. Even before I could form them, Kiraisten belonged to me as soon as I touched him. "Before you return," the figure said, "you must first understand what is to come. The world you know will change, but you must not fear it. You must prepare your soul, your heart, and your community." The words stirred something inside me. The word "prepare" echoed in my mind, repeated over and over like a mantra I couldn't escape. It felt urgent, like a warning or a gentle reminder. The figure continued, "There is a force that seeks to deceive, to pull humanity away from the path it was meant to walk. This force will grow, disguised as convenience, as security, as progress, but it will be a lie that will erode what is truly important." I didn't understand fully, but I felt a deep stirring, a sense of dread that mingled with the peace of the moment. I knew, in the way you know something without ever having been told, that something terrible was coming. Yet there was still a great love here, a love that could withstand even the deepest of trials. "You must prepare," the figure repeated. "Your faith must be strong. You must build a foundation that will stand firm, no matter what changes the world may face. You must hold on to what is eternal." In that moment, it became clear. This wasn't just about survival. It wasn't about avoiding danger. It was about spiritual preparation, about strengthening something within me that had long been dormant, something that would carry me through whatever was to come. "You will return," the figure said, "but remember this, the greatest danger is not in what will come, but in forgetting the light that has been given to you. Keep your heart open, stay grounded in faith, build communities that will protect and support one another." The words reverberated within me like a call to arms for my soul. I had not yet understood the full gravity of what was ahead, but I knew I had a role to play. And when the time came, I would have to be ready. As the presence began to fade, the light slowly dimming, I felt myself being pulled back toward the darkness I had come from. The stillness gave way to the sound of rushing wind, a return to the world I knew. But something had shifted inside me. The weight of the divine encounter still clung to me like a soft glow that refused to be extinguished. And then, in an instant, I was back. The world rushed forward to meet me. I could feel the pressure of my body against the seat, the pounding of my heart in my chest, the rush of air in my lungs. But something was different. The peace, the clarity I had felt in that otherworldly place lingered, wrapping around my thoughts and emotions like a shield. I had returned, yes, but I wasn't the same. There was work to be done. I had seen glimpses of what was ahead, and I knew it was only the beginning. The figure's words echoed in my mind. Prepare. Prepare your soul, your heart, and your community. It wasn't just a command, it was a promise. There was hope in the face of what was coming. But I had to do my part. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I couldn't walk it alone. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for what I was about to face, but I knew that I had to start somewhere. When I returned to the world I knew, everything seemed oddly familiar, yet strangely distant. The noise of traffic, the chatter of people, the hum of everyday life, it all felt like a distant echo of something that no longer fully belonged to me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been shown something far beyond my understanding, something urgent that I needed to learn. The figure's words haunted me, lingering in my thoughts. Prepare your soul, your heart, and your community. I could no longer look at the world the same way. The peace I had felt in the presence of the divine was still with me, but it was now tempered by a growing sense of unease. I felt as though I were standing on the edge of something, peering into a future that was both inevitable and terrifying. I needed to understand more, to grasp what had been revealed to me. Then came the vision. The figure appeared to me again, not in the same way, but in the quiet moments between waking and sleep. It was not a dream, but a vision, vivid and unshakable. I was no longer standing in a place of light, but surrounded by a vast expanse of shifting images. At first, they were blurry, indistinct, but gradually they came into focus. I saw a world not unlike our own, but one that had changed in ways I could scarcely comprehend. The cities were more advanced, gleaming with technology, but there was a coldness to it. People moved through their lives with a sense of purpose, yet their eyes were distant, absent. The world was connected in ways I hadn't imagined. Everything was monitored, tracked, and analyzed. Every person's every move, every choice, every breath seemed to be under scrutiny. The divine figure's voice filled my mind. This is the world that lies ahead. A world where convenience is offered in exchange for your freedom. A world where technology promises peace, but brings with it the destruction of your soul. The images shifted again. I saw people eagerly lining up for something, their faces filled with anticipation. At first it appeared to be something harmless, a chip or some form of identification that would make life easier. A better future, they thought, a way to live more securely, more efficiently. But as I watched, a chill ran through me. It wasn't just a chip or a simple tool. It was the beginning of something far more insidious. The mark, as it was known, began to spread, not with force, but with subtlety, luring people in with promises of safety, connection, and prosperity. At first it seemed like a harmless convenience, something that could be scanned for transactions, for access, for identification. Something that could be scanned for transactions, for access, for identification. I saw people making choices, seemingly small ones, accepting this mark in exchange for simple comforts, food, shelter, security. Each time someone accepted it, they felt a sense of relief, a sense of ease. But then I saw what happened to them. They were no longer free. They no longer had a choice. The mark began to control them, their actions, their thoughts, their very lives. The mark, the figure said, as if reading my thoughts, is not just an object. It is a chain, a way to bind you to the system, to strip away your connection to what is truly important. It is the beginning of a new form of slavery. At first, it will seem harmless, but the cost is far greater than you can imagine. I saw glimpses of people's lives after they had accepted the mark. They were given everything they thought they wanted, easy access to wealth, resources, safety, and even the illusion of freedom. But in exchange, they gave up their autonomy. They became part of a system, a machine, that controlled every aspect of their existence. Their spiritual connection, their humanity, began to fade. They no longer had the ability to think freely, to make choices based on faith or love. They had become cogs in a vast impersonal machine. The figure's voice was heavy with compassion. The world will tell you that this is the way forward, that this is progress. But progress without faith is destruction. The mark is the path to destruction, not salvation. Those who accept it will lose their connection to the divine, and with it, their very souls. I felt a surge of horror, followed by a deep sadness. How could so many people fall for this? How could they not see the cost? And yet, I understood. The system was designed to make them believe they were choosing a better life, a more secure future. The promises were enticing. The illusion of control, of safety, of belonging. Who wouldn't want that? The figure's voice softened, almost as if comforting me. It will not be immediate. People will accept the mark gradually, little by little. The systems will integrate into their lives so smoothly they won't even notice. They will think they are in control, when in reality they will be losing their ability to choose. The images shifted again, and I saw more. I saw families torn apart by the system. I saw communities that once thrived in faith and love now fragmented, isolated. People turned on one another, not out of malice, but because the system itself encouraged division. It created fear, distrust, and competition. Those who refused the mark were cast aside, isolated from the rest of society, their voices drowned out by the growing tide of compliance. The figure continued. You must understand, this will not be a sudden shift. It will be a gradual erosion of what is good. The mark will be marketed as a tool of convenience, security, and progress. It will be a slow, subtle temptation, and many will fall for it. But those who remain faithful, those who resist the temptation to rely on technology alone, will find their strength in the end. Miller was left to process what I had seen. The weight of it settled upon me, like a thick cloud hanging low in the sky. The road ahead would not be easy. The world was changing, and it was changing in ways that could not be undone. But there was still hope. There was still time. The figure's presence enveloped me once more, offering solace in the face of the overwhelming challenge. Prepare. Prepare your heart, your soul, and your community. Strengthen your faith, for you will need it. The path ahead will be hard, but with faith, you will find your way. Brother. As the vision began to fade, I was left with the burning need to share what I had learned, to warn others of the dangers ahead, to help them understand that what seemed like progress could lead them down a dark path, one they might not be able to return from. And yet, in my heart, I knew that there was still time to prepare, time to protect what mattered most.
I woke from the vision with a sense of dread gnawing at me, yet there was also a strange calmness, as if the very act of seeing the truth had freed me from the darkness of ignorance. The figure's words echoed in my mind like a bell, resonating with a deeper understanding. The mark will not be forced upon the people, but rather it will be offered as a gift, a necessity, a choice. The more I pondered these words, the more I realized how dangerous this subtle deception would be. It would not be a grand, obvious evil, but a small, almost imperceptible compromise that would slip into people's lives without them even noticing. It would be a slow erosion of everything they valued. The mark, I understood now, would not come with an ominous warning, but would arrive gently, like a whispered promise of a better life, of a better future. And it would all begin with convenience. The divine figure continued to reveal the vision, showing me how society would slowly embrace the mark, unaware of the deep cost it carried. At first, it would be small, merely harmless conveniences, the identification chip embedded in a hand, a biometric scan to access buildings or make purchases, a wearable device that could track every movement, every heartbeat, every thought. I meant it would even smells like Henry, how they were going to get from. It will seem like a blessing, the figure said, a way to eliminate all your burdens, security, health monitoring, wealth management, all wrapped up in one simple tool. You will be told that this is the way of the future. And it will be so easy to accept, so tempting, so right. The visions continued to unfold. I saw people lining up for the chip, eagerly signing up for what they were told would simplify their lives. They were reassured that it was safe, that it was necessary, that it would make them healthier, wealthier, and more connected than ever before. This will protect you, they were told. This will protect your family. This will make your life easier. What was so insidious about this, I realized, was not that people would be coerced into accepting the mark, but that they would willingly embrace it, believing that it was the answer to all their problems. Society was already drifting toward dependence on technology, and this would be the final piece of the puzzle: convenience, security, control. At first, there would be no immediate consequences. People would see only the positive outcomes: faster access to services, greater wealth, better health, and the illusion of safety. The benefits would appear so real, so immediate, that few would question what they were truly surrendering. No one would stop to think about what it meant to give away their autonomy, their free will, their connection to something greater than themselves. But beneath the surface, something darker was slowly taking root. The mark, though invisible at first, would gradually begin to take over every aspect of people's lives. Their thoughts, their emotions, their desires, all would be subtly influenced by the system that controlled them. The technology would track their every move, their every choice, and feed back information to a vast network that would learn how to manipulate them. They're marked and their hands together because of pain. If they would choose to control, the figure's voice murmured. They would choose to accept the mark because they believe it will make their lives better. But the more they rely on it, the less control they will have. The system will begin to shape their thoughts, their desires, their very beliefs. Slowly, imperceptibly, they will be conditioned to believe that they need it, that they cannot live without it. And that is when they will begin to lose their souls. I felt a chill as the vision shifted, revealing families living in homes that were more comfortable than anything they had known before. Their lives were easy, stress-free. They could access anything they wanted with a single gesture, from food to entertainment to healthcare. Everything was at their fingertips, and they were satisfied, content. They had everything they could ever need. Sons, yet there was a growing emptiness. It was subtle at first, a slight disconnection from one another, relationships that seemed to fall apart despite the abundance of material wealth. People spent more time looking at their screens and looking into the eyes of the ones they loved. Conversations became shallow and genuine connection became harder and harder to find. The more they depend on the mark, the more isolated they become, the figure whispered. It will promise unity, but it will divide them. It will promise peace, but it will bring unrest. It will promise security, but it will destroy freedom. Oh, the undersecond, there's so many kids. The vision continued, and I saw something else: those who refused the mark. At first, they were few, but their numbers began to grow. They were outcasts, labeled as troublemakers, rebels, extremists. The system would slowly begin to isolate them from society, cutting them off from the resources they once had. It would be as though they no longer existed in the eyes of the majority. Their lives would be harder, and their survival would depend on their fate. Those who resist the mark will be persecuted, the figure said. They will face hardship, rejection, even violence, but their faith will sustain them, and they will know that their souls are not for sale. The figure paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. There was a long silence, and in that silence, I felt the depth of what I had learned. This would not be a sudden test of faith. It would be a gradual one, a slow erosion of the very things that had once made people strong: faith, family, and freedom. The mark would come not as a single event, but as a series of choices that would subtly and inexorably pull people away from what truly mattered. The test would be one of discernment. People would need to see through the promises, the temptations. They would need to recognize the lies hidden beneath the surface, to stand firm in their faith, even when it seemed like the whole world was telling them to accept the easy way out. The figure's presence grew stronger as it spoke again. The world will try to deceive you. The systems of the world will promise you everything you desire, but they will take from you the most precious thing you have: your connection to the divine. Only those who remain faithful, who build their lives on truth and love, will stand firm when the winds of change blow hardest. The vision began to fade, but not before I saw one final image: a community, small but united, standing together in faith. They were not swayed by the promises of convenience or security. They lived simply, relying on each other, on their faith, on the love they shared. They were not afraid. And in that moment, I understood the mark was not the end of the road. It was the beginning of a choice between the fleeting comforts of the world and the eternal strength of the soul. After nearly 10 years of living at home, I reflected on my personal health. I could feel the weight of the divine presence growing stronger as I stood there, bathed in the soft, all-encompassing light. The figure spoke again, their voice steady, filled with a profound calm that seemed to permeate every corner of my being. Now you know the dangers that lie ahead, the figure said, their words gentle but firm. But knowledge alone is not enough. Understanding must be transformed into action. You must prepare, not only for yourself, but for those around you. The times ahead will be difficult, but there is a way to endure. I could sense the urgency in the tone, as if what I was about to hear was of the utmost importance. My heart quickened, and I felt a stirring in my spirit, a call to something deeper than mere survival. This was about something more. It was about faith. It was about community, and it was about taking real, tangible steps to prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. Spiritual growth must be your foundation, the figure continued, their voice now like a soothing balm to my soul. Without a strong connection to the divine, without unwavering faith, you will falter when the trials come. It is in these quiet, intimate moments with the Creator that you will find the strength to withstand the coming storm. You must build your spiritual resilience now in the quiet of your heart before the world becomes a place where faith is hard to come by. I nodded, feeling the weight of those words sink deep into me. Spiritual growth was not just a matter of reading scriptures or attending services. It was a daily practice, a commitment to nurturing my connection to something greater than the world around me. And in the days to come, it would be that very connection that would anchor me when the storm raged. I felt a deep peace settle over me, as if the figure's words were a compass, guiding me toward a path of clarity. Seek solitude and prayer, the figure advised. It is in stillness that you will hear the whispers of the divine. Quiet your mind, listen to your heart, and you will be shown the way. The world will offer you many distractions, many temptations, but you must be steadfast. In the silence, you will find the strength to resist. In the quiet, you will hear the voice of truth. The vision shifted slightly, and I saw myself in the midst of a community. We were gathered together, people from all walks of life, each of us united by something far more profound than convenience or comfort. It was our shared faith that bound us, our commitment to one another that made us strong. We were building something together, something that was not built on the shifting sands of technology or power, but on the rock of love and truth. You must build these communities, the figure said, as if reading my thoughts, not just for yourself, but for others. The days ahead will be dark, and many will be lost, confused, and fearful. You must help them find their way back to the light. These communities will not be based on physical wealth or social status, but on shared values, love, faith, and a commitment to truth. Your bond will be unbreakable because it is built on something eternal. I watched in the vision as we built our small, resilient community. We gathered together to pray, to share, to help one another. There were no distractions, no screens, no systems telling us what to do or how to live. We lived simply, focusing on what was truly important, the love we shared and the strength we found in each other. Do not isolate yourself, the figure warned. You will need each other in the days ahead. Do not wait until the storm has come to build these bonds. Start now. Reach out to those around you. Build the foundations of trust, compassion, and love. There is strength in community that cannot be found alone. I felt a stirring within me, a desire to start now, to reach out and build relationships that would help me endure whatever was to come. These communities would not just be places of survival, they would be sanctuaries, havens of peace where the light of faith could still shine brightly. They would be refuges where truth could be spoken, where love could be felt, and where the strength of the Spirit could sustain us all. Practical preparation is also necessary, the figure added, bringing me back to reality. You must be ready for the physical challenges that will come. Stockpile what you can, food, water, tools. But remember, the greatest preparation is not in what you store, but in what you cultivate within yourself. On one leg of our trip across the globe for a reason, and I knew this type of spiritual framework was needed. I felt a wave of understanding wash over me. Survival wasn't just about gathering supplies, it was about cultivating inner strength, resourcefulness, and resilience. In the face of hardship, it would be the skills and knowledge we possessed not just to survive, but to help others. That would truly make a difference. Learn to live simply, the figure continued. Grow your own food if you can. Learn practical skills, cooking, building, sewing. These things will serve you when the systems of the world begin to crumble. But more importantly, learn to live with gratitude. Gratitude will be your shield in times of trial. It will keep your heart open even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. I could see myself now not as a passive bystander, but as an active participant in the world. I was not just preparing to face the storm, I was preparing to help others through it. I was building not just a physical shelter, but a spiritual one, a place where hope and faith would endure no matter the circumstances. The figure's voice softened, like the breeze in a quiet meadow. These preparations will not only help you survive, they will help you thrive. When you are grounded in faith, when you are connected to a strong community, when you are equipped with the practical skills to navigate whatever comes, you will find that the darkness does not have the power to overcome you. You will shine like a light in the dark. I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose fill me, as if the weight of the world was not just a burden, but an invitation to act. I was not alone in this journey. There were others who, like me, would hear this call. There were others who would join hands and stand together in the face of adversity. Share these lessons with others, the figure urged, their voice full of compassion. The message is not for you alone. You must be a beacon to those around you. As you prepare spiritually, build your community, and cultivate practical skills, share this wisdom with those who are still lost. You are part of something greater. You are part of the revival. The light around me began to fade as the vision ended, leaving me with a deep, unshakable peace. I knew what I had to do. The time for waiting was over. The time to act, to prepare, to build was now. I felt the light around me begin to soften, fading slowly as the divine figure's presence grew even more profound. The peace that had filled me throughout this journey began to feel deeper, more complete, as if I were being gently prepared for the final words. The weight of everything I had seen, everything I had learned, settled heavily on my heart. And I realized I had reached the end of this otherworldly encounter. But I also felt a sense of urgency, as if I had only just begun to understand the true meaning of it all. The divine figure stood before me, no longer just a figure of light, but someone whose presence seemed to touch every corner of my being. Their gaze was steady, filled with boundless love and compassion, and yet there was a gravity to it, as though they could see through me into the depths of my soul. You have seen the dangers, the temptations that will arise in the world, the figure said, their voice calm, yet filled with an undeniable strength. You have been shown the paths that many will walk and the false promises that will be offered to them. But now you must understand this. The darkness, no matter how thick, cannot extinguish the light unless you allow it. I absorbed these words with an overwhelming sense of clarity. The darkness was real, yes, but it was not invincible. I was not being asked to fight it with power or weapons, but with something far more profound, faith. The faith that had carried people through centuries of trial, the faith that had never once failed to bring light into the darkest of times. It was this faith that would allow me and all who chose it to survive and even thrive, even as the world grew darker. The figure's gaze softened and a subtle smile touched their lips. The world will grow darker, yes, but it is in the darkness that the light of faith shines the brightest. You have the choice, always, to walk in that light, to trust, to endure, and to hold on to the truth that nothing at all can separate you from the love of the divine. I felt a deep, comforting sense of reassurance flood over me. The weight of the future, the challenges, the uncertainty, it all seemed suddenly lighter. It was as though the figure had shown me a glimpse of the way forward, a path that was not without hardship, but was illuminated by the light of love. of community, and of unwavering faith. Remember, the figure continued, the world is not beyond redemption. Just as it has fallen into darkness, so too can it rise again. You are not alone. Even when you feel isolated, even when the world feels like it is slipping away, know this. There is always the possibility of revival. There is always the potential for salvation. For as long as there is one person who chooses the light, as long as there is one soul who believes in love, the possibility of transformation remains. I could feel the hope in those words, a profound and unshakable hope that coursed through me like a fresh wave of strength. The idea of revival, of salvation, seemed almost impossible in the face of such overwhelming challenges. Yet I understood now that the divine figure was not speaking of a distant, unreachable salvation. They were speaking of something closer, something that was within my reach, within the reach of anyone who chose to believe and act. Do not despair, even when it feels like the world has turned its back. The figure's voice was soft but resolute. The world will test your faith, but your faith will be your refuge. The mark, the systems of control, the deception, they will all attempt to pull you into a false promise of safety and ease. But remember, they are fleeting. They are not eternal. The love you carry in your heart is eternal. The strength that comes from your faith is eternal. The figure paused, their eyes filled with compassion and a knowing that felt both distant and intimate, as if they understood my every fear, every doubt. Each step you take in faith, each act of kindness, each moment you spend in the quiet of prayer meditation will bring you closer to the divine, closer to the light that cannot be extinguished. The world may become more fractured, more divided, but remember that true unity lies in the love you carry and share with others. Your mission is not just to survive, it is to live with purpose, to be a light in the dark, to help guide others who are lost, just as you have been guided. I felt the weight of responsibility pressing on my chest, but it wasn't a burden. It was a calling. It was a deep and powerful invitation to become the person I had seen in my vision, someone who not only endured the darkness, but who helped others find their way through it. The mission wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about reaching out to others, sharing this truth, and building communities of faith that would be a sanctuary for anyone seeking refuge. You will return to your life. The figure spoke, and their words were both a promise and a command. But you will never be the same. You have been shown the truth, and now it is up to you to carry it forward, to live it, to share it, to be a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Your mission has just begun. I had a warmth inside of me. I felt a rush of warmth fill me, as if the very essence of the divine was wrapping around me, protecting me, giving me the strength I needed. I knew that the challenges ahead would not be easy, that I would face obstacles, temptations, and struggles, but I also knew that I was not alone. The divine presence, the light, the hope, these things would stay with me, and through them I would find my way. The figure's presence began to fade, not in absence, but in the gentle way that a sunset gradually blends into the twilight. As their form became less distinct, I felt the pull to return to my own life, to the world I had left behind. I wasn't sure how to do it, how to bring all that I had learned back into the reality I would face. But one thing was certain, I would not go back the same. You are ready, the figure's voice echoed softly, a final affirmation. And with that, I felt the connection break, and I began to feel myself returning to my body, to the world of form and time. But this time, I wasn't returning empty-handed. I was carrying with me the gift of understanding, the gift of hope, and a renewed mission to walk in the light, no matter how dark the world may become.